What's up, people? Welcome to the video and welcome back, members of the Tang Gang. I'm Tangy Nacho, and today we got the recap for Overwatch League Season 2, Stage 3, Week 5, the Atlanta Reign homestand. Just like when they went to Dallas back in Stage 2, 8 teams traveled to the East Coast to face off in some epic matchups. It was great to see all the local fans coming out to make this event truly spectacular. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments below what your favorite match from last week was. Drop a like on the video if you're excited, and now without further ado, let's get into this recap. We started off with a match between the Florida Mayhem and the New York Excelsior. If you know anything about the league, it should be pretty obvious how this one went. New York Excelsior won Oasis 2-1. They actually tied on Volskaya 2-2, but then Excelsior won Eichenwald 3-2 and Havana 1-0 for the 3-0 victory. I give the Mayhem credit for at least taking a draw on one map, like at least they didn't get 4-0'd. And with this fairly easy victory, the New York Excelsior were one step closer to another perfect stage. Next up was the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Washington Justice. And this one was actually pretty interesting. Philly was in a fight for their playoff lives here, and they almost lost it to the Washington Justice, who by the way took Ilios 2-1 to start the match. Luckily for Philly fans though, the Fusion were able to take Horizon Lunar Colony 3-2, Hollywood 3-1, and Watchpoint Gibraltar 3-2 for a 3-1 reverse sweep-ish thing. But you'll notice that these map scores are actually kinda close. Every map except for Hollywood was decided by just 1 point. I mean, come on, if you're a team that's hoping to make the playoffs, you can't be coming that close to losing to a bottom 2 team like the Washington Justice. One team fight goes awry and the Justice get map 5 and possibly even win it because they did win on control. I feel like the Fusion can never have like a really dominant victory, but they also don't really lose really dominantly either. They kind of play to their opponent's skill level a little bit, and it makes them seem inconsistent, and inconsistency is something that worries me in the Overwatch League, so I don't know. We'll have to see what happens with them in Stage 4, because spoiler alert, they don't make the playoffs. Next up we had the Toronto Defiant taking on the home team, the Atlanta Reign. You can't really get a much better walkout than this. The Atlanta Reign came out led by their mascot, the Phoenix, and once they were all on stage, he pulled his mask off and it was DeFran. The tracking god himself returned to Atlanta for one last let's go dude. It was incredibly hype, and I think it definitely gave the Reign the morale boost they needed to take this victory. They won on Oasis 2-1, lost Volskaya 1-0, but then won Eichenwald 4-3 and Dorado 3-2 for the 3-1 victory. This match overall was super close. Both of these teams were 0-5 at the time, looking for their first win in the stage, and Atlanta was able to get the win at home. I definitely think home court advantage is real in Overwatch, which is kind of weird because I feel like you probably can't hear the crowd that much when you're playing, but I guess it's just the atmosphere, and it really did pay off for the Atlanta Reign here with the victory over the Defiant. Moving on, we had the Guangzhou Charge rematching against the Shanghai Dragons. These teams had just played each other the week prior, and Shanghai took the victory 3-1. Looking like the better team, I expected them to do the same thing this time. But Guangzhou started off on Nepal with a 2-1 victory, then won Horizon Lunar Colony 6-5 and Numbani 3-2 to seal the deal. The Dragons were able to get the first hold on Havana for the 1-0 win, and they only lost 3-1, so that helped their map differential a bit, but Guangzhou was able to get their revenge. I guess it really didn't matter this time because they did get the win, but I'm not sure why the Charge aren't playing Eileen. Maybe something happened that he can't play, I don't know all the details, but I really think they should be playing Eileen if they're gonna keep playing these Sombra comps. Hotbuzz Sombra has looked like a weak point on the team, at least in my opinion. If you know what's going on with Eileen, please do let me know down in the comments. This was a tough loss for Shanghai because just like Philly, they were trying to push for that last spot in the playoffs. And speaking of which, the very next match was the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Shanghai Dragons. This was probably the most important match of the week because whichever team won this would make it into the Stage 3 playoffs. Shanghai came out with a 2-1 victory on Ilios, 4-3 on Volskaya to go up 2-0 in the half. Philly struck back 4-3 on Hollywood, making it interesting, but Dorado went 2-0 for Shanghai. They got the first hold and sealed the deal for themselves, making it into that 8th seed slot for the Stage 3 playoffs. I always love to see the Dragons making it into the playoffs. I hope they are able to go really far. As for Philly, I have had my concerns with them in the past few weeks, so I think it's actually good that they didn't make playoffs. I hope they take this off time to really look back at their performance this stage and try to figure out what's going on and how to improve their consistency issues. But moving on, we had the Washington Justice versus the Guangzhou Charge. Coming off a win against Shanghai and playing against a really bad team looks good on the Guangzhou Charge. They took Nepal 2-1, Volskaya 2-0, Eichenwald 3-0, and Gibraltar 3-2 for the 4-0 stomp. The fact that the Charge were able to handle Washington much better than the Philadelphia Fusion, a team with a better record right now, means that they're definitely seeing some improvement. Either that or maybe the Justice just had a good day against Philly. Either way, the Charge did take the win, putting them at 4-3, which unfortunately was not quite enough to make the playoffs. Second to last on Sunday, we had the Florida Mayhem versus the Atlanta Reign, two of the more local teams facing off against each other. I can definitely see there being an awesome rivalry here, and despite the scoreboard, the match was actually kind of close. I wouldn't say that the Mayhem had a shot at winning, but they did have a shot at winning a map or two. Ilios went 2-1 for Atlanta Reign, Horizon Lunar Colony 3-2 Reign, Eichenwald 3-1 Reign, and Dorado 2-1 Reign for the 4-0 sweep. That being said, a lot of the matches were pretty close, but the home court advantage came through once again for the Atlanta Reign, and they were able to go 2-0 for their homestand. And the final match was the New York Excelsior versus the Toronto Defiant. I don't even know why they took New York along with them on this trip. I mean, they're significantly stronger than any of the other teams they went with, especially the Florida Mayhem and the Toronto Defiant, but that's just what happened. So New York took Nepal 2-0, Horizon Lunar Colony 2-1, Numbani 3-2, and Havana 1-0 for the 4-0 stomp. And with this result, the New York Excelsior got their perfect stage 7-0. Meanwhile, their opponents that they just defeated, the Toronto Defiant, ended the stage 0-7. It doesn't really get much more one-sided than that. And now next week we get to go into the Stage 3 playoffs. The teams that qualified were the New York Excelsior at 7-0, Vancouver Titans at 6-1, Hangzhou Spark also 6-1, and then the San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, Los Angeles Valiant, Houston Outlaws, and Shanghai Dragons all at 5-2. This is probably the most stacked I've ever seen a playoff bracket, and I cannot wait to watch these matches. As always, I'm going to go through the matches, predict who will win, and eventually who will win the entire Stage 3. The quarterfinal matches are 1st to 3, the semifinals and the finals are 1st to 4. So let's get right into it. First up is the Houston Outlaws versus the Vancouver Titans. This might destroy my bracket completely, but I gotta do it to them. I think it's gonna be 3-2 Houston Outlaws. The Titans showed some weakness this stage, and Houston showed some greatness this stage. I think if they put all their cards into it, Houston can defeat Vancouver. Let's get some JLulKE in the comments below if you agree. But anyway, moving on, we had the Shanghai Dragons versus the New York Excelsior. New York had a perfect stage while Shanghai barely squeaked in, so I'm gonna say 3-1 New York Excelsior. Next up is the Seoul Dynasty versus the San Francisco Shock. I'm going 3-0 San Francisco Shock. I do think Seoul is an amazing team, but the Shock tend to pop off in the playoffs. I don't see this one being any different. Then we have the LA Valiant versus the Hangzhou Spark. This is a rematch of one of the best matches of the stage. Definitely a highlighted match to watch, but who will win? It's gonna be really close, 3-2. I think it's gonna go to the Hangzhou Spark. Literally, as I was saying it, I almost said Valiant, but I have to go with the Spark. They've just been popping off, and yes, I know, the Valiant beat Vancouver, but the Spark did win against the Valiant in the last match, and I think they're gonna do it again. So that means going into the semifinals, we have NYXL, Hangzhou Spark, San Francisco Shock, and Houston Outlaws. Things get reseeded and we end up with New York Excelsior versus Houston Outlaws. And guys, you know that New York Excelsior has a history of choking in the playoffs. I think that if Houston actually does make it this far, this match is gonna go 4-3 Houston Outlaws. Yes, maybe I'm being a little too overconfident, but come on guys, wouldn't it be so hype if the Houston Outlaws make it to the stage finals? After going 0-7 last stage, it would just be an insane comeback story, and I gotta root for it, I gotta predict it. Let's go Houston. The other match, Hangzhou Spark versus San Francisco Shock, will also be a really close one in my opinion. Shock is traditionally the better team, but their record is worse this stage, Hangzhou with the 3rd seed and San Francisco with the 4th. It's pretty tough to call, and I want to go the other way, but what I'm going to go is 4-3 San Francisco Shock. As much as I really want the Hangzhou Spark to make it, I think the Spark will clutch it out here. So that puts us at a finals between the San Francisco Shock and the Houston Outlaws. This will be the rematch for the ages. The Shock will get a chance to get their revenge on the Houston Outlaws, the team that sent them crashing down at the beginning of the stage. And the Outlaws will have a chance to end an insane run through the playoffs against the team that they were able to take down at the very beginning of the stage to turn their season around. The Shock said it was a fluke, it'll never happen again. Well, let's see if they can prove it. Based on all my predictions, you probably know how this one is gonna go, but I'm gonna say 4-3 Houston Outlaws. That's right, you heard it here first, the Houston Outlaws are gonna be the Stage 3 champions. Spam those JLulKEs in the comments below. Come on guys, let's get the hype up. Houston Outlaws are gonna win. Prove me wrong. Anyway, that does it for the video. Let me know what you think of my predictions in the comments below, and if you think the Houston Outlaws aren't gonna win, who do you think will win Stage 3? Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on to join the Tang Gang. Check the description for links to my Twitch, my Twitter, yada yada yada. Anyway, that's all I got today, so until we meet again, later people!